prepping for young people. I'm going to kind of generically say this is between the age of like 14, which is kind of like the year that you start high school for a lot of people. And so at that particular point, you could start on some level. Now, some people could argue, well, in Boy Scouts and maybe even going back to Cub Scouts, they do various form of prepping in some very minor ways. And I could agree on some level, but I'm talking about more purposeful individual prepping activity. And I think it is possible, depending on, your upbringings and your parents and role models, that you could probably start it at age 14, maybe even younger. But I'm just going to say generically between 14 and 35 is going to be the target audience for this video. So what's unique, though, about younger people when it comes to preparation? Well, the first thing is they're young. And because they're young, they typically have a lack of experience and knowledge. And that experience is more real hands-on experience. They just don't know how to do things. They may also have a lack of skills because of that. So the first thing I would say is to access correct information. Information on how things work, what things you would need as a prepper, and how to do things, how to be hands-on. So I think that that's going to be something that you have to kind of eliminate. The sources of information that are wishy-washy and that do not actually over time become reliable, or they fail you, and then I would avoid those sources of information. I would look at authors that are tried and true, that have been around for a while. It just depends on the information you need. The next thing goes right into the learning of new skills and collecting material assets within the preparation community. And when I mean the preparation community, the community is made up of a lot of different types of people, including vendors and manufacturers. And so they go hand in hand and part of your journey of learning what they have to offer, because not everything is something that's going to be made by hand that you will have for your use. So learning new skills will also be something that takes time. And so you're young and you have some time on your hands, hopefully, to learn. Maybe it's just one or two new skills a week. But over time, that could be hundreds and hundreds of new skills over just a matter of a few years. So it's something to consider to go ahead and start now on learning these things, because when you look back in a short amount of time, you're going to go, wow, I was able to accumulate a lot of knowledge and material assets. Be careful who you pick to be your friends. This is something that can haunt you, because you'll be over time more and more influenced by those who are around you. It's just natural and normal. But you really want to be very picky, in my opinion, on who you let in your inner circle. Now, when it comes to family, you kind of you get what you get. You're raised with them. Your mom's your mom. Your brother or your sister is your brother or sister. You don't really have any control. You just love them as much as you can. And if you have conflict or just don't naturally get along with them, then over time, when you get a little bit older, you can get a little more space for them and hopefully maybe find a resolve. But when it comes to friends, you do have control over who you spend time with and who you communicate with, who you share ideas with, who you allow to be influential in your life. So be careful about this, because they can really create a negative aspect in your life if you're not careful. They can influence you for the negative, and it can actually destroy your life if you're not careful. Take your time when making purchases and avoid emotional purchases. And this is something that you see a lot with younger people. They get really excited. They think this is going to make them happy forever. And this is, they just purchased this, then everything's better. And they just kind of look at it like that. They're very short-sighted. And that's somewhat natural, just because of developmentally, they don't understand what is happiness and how to obtain it. And definitely happiness is not what you buy. It's the state of who you are and when you choose to actually be happy. Because happiness is a type of action. It's something that you do, not something you buy. So find a good role model that can help you teach you some of these lessons. someone who is successful, not just because they have money, not that kind of success. In fact, you don't even have to really look at that as something that you're using as a qualifier. Even though it sometimes is a side effect of someone who is very successful personally, they typically do well financially. But someone that actually is grounded in reality, someone that actually takes the time to learn the mechanics of how things are and why, and how they can actually become a teacher to you, because that's what you're looking for, someone that will spend time to help you develop who you are and what you can become. And within preparation, though, it's how you can actually develop to be more prepared. So this, just like anything else, needs to start slow and over time. You need to build these assets in terms of information, skills, and material assets over time in a fashion that has rhythm. You don't want to do these surges that you rush and buy like 20 items this weekend, and then you kind of just drop prepping for a month or two, and then you surge back because you're doing it out of fear, and you have a lot of the wrong motivations. So start slow and build over time. Buy quality over quantity. In fact, just buy quality as much as you can. Now, there are some gear out there that is so expensive and probably so beyond what you even would ever need in terms of not only just quality, but just materials. Some materials are just not necessary. In particular, exotic steels on various blades and stuff. You don't have to go to that extreme. I'm talking about finding that mid-ground, not the cheap stuff that's going to break or give you only a limited amount of use, but not the high-end stuff that you're only getting maybe a few % more and maybe strength or usability over something that could cost 10 times cheaper. So this is why you need to research before you settle on a strategy or purchase, because not only do you not want buyer's remorse, but you also want to make sure you have the stuff you really need and want and not overpay for things that are completely over the top or useless. Make a plan and kits to solve common emergencies. So it's not just enough to have a plan of action, which is really the biggest problem even for older adults. They just don't have plans. But they have the plan in conjunction with the kit so they work together, kind of symbiotically. And so these things are going to go a long way because we know of certain things that happen more than others. And we can look at it statistically. We can go and look at it on government websites. We can even poll our neighbors, our friends, ourselves, and ask us, hey, I wonder how many times that I've seen someone have a car wreck. Oh, I guess car wrecks are pretty common. Therefore, maybe we should have a kit in our car. The next is build an emergency fund. When you're young, it may be a little bit more difficult because sometimes your earnings or your jobs aren't paying as high as it will be hopefully when you get a little older. Typically, the older you become, the more you make because you have more experience and more to offer. You have more value that you give. So when we're younger, it's hard to save money typically, but it's not impossible. And so it's really good to start that emergency fund just like you would want to start your retirement as early as possible so that you can let things build and grow, compound. Be open to new experiences. This is something that you see a lot of young people close off themselves because they assume they know everything. They're just a very, very stubborn people. And so don't assume that you know everything. Don't be closed-minded, because this will limit you in your future. It will limit who you are and what you can be. And when it comes to preparation, man, you should never close a door on things that you don't completely understand. Stay humble and grounded in reality. This is very difficult for a young person because you're always sometimes going to jump into the newest and biggest thing because you're always excited about new technology, and it's understandable. But sometimes the new stuff isn't better than the old stuff. And while there's new technology that is pretty amazing, like in the flashlight industry, there are some amazing advances in LED technology, no doubt about it. But there's also some things that are tried and true, like an axe. It's really hard to make an axe better. I mean, there's some really nice modern axes, but they really have been shown not to actually be that much better than axes that were made even 50 to 100 years ago in some way, some respects. So stay humble, and really realize that some things have limitations, and just because the modern day jazzes certain things up doesn't mean it's that much better. Reduce your risk, in terms of what you do. So risk taking in general is what I'm saying. And this is like, you don't want to have regrets. Just because you're 20 years old and you think you're invincible and you drive like I did when I used to have a Mustang. I would drive insanely very fast. I mean, I'm talking well over 100 miles per hour. A lot of times 120 on the highway, which was completely wrong and stupid. I did a lot of stupid things when I was young. I used to race cars on the highway, things that I'm not proud of. But I'm sharing these little snippets here just because I want you to know you should not do these things. Now, for me, I felt invincible. I was like, no, I could never get in a car wreck. There's just no way. And then later in my life, I went and had many car wrecks. And so I've learned my lesson. So risk taking, like jumping out of planes, driving super fast, a lot of things on ATVs. I know people personally in my own family that have been injured very severely, motorcycles and on ATVs. There are certain things that just make sense to minimize or to actually be more careful when you're doing them. Just like when you're operating a chainsaw. That thing could literally kill you, if not maim you or cut off limbs like it's nothing. You have to really be serious about some things you do in life. So don't play with fire. Don't get also caught up in high technology. As we were just talking about, some people get so wrapped up in the newest things, they don't really realize that it's just an old thing that's repackaged. And so, technology is really interesting by no means. Should I say that you shouldn't pursue, development of new products personally, or you should not be attracted to things because they may offer a lot of benefits. But I will tell you, though, straight up, that things like electronics, they don't always work when you want them to work. And if you're talking about preparation, I personally try to minimize high technology in my preps. I mean, seriously, beside the radio and in a flashlight, because a lot of flashlights have different types of circuitries and things that the older ones didn't have. But I'm just telling you, though, I try to minimize electronics like you wouldn't believe. I want manually operated things because I don't want to have to constantly charge up batteries or find fuel sources to do anything in an emergency. So that's why you'd have things like hand crank, lights and lanterns and radios that come in handy. But even then, it'd be even better if you could find something even more primitive. Lastly here, respect your elders and learn from them. They have learned life lessons that are of high value. These are people that are very wise. These typically are people who have learned so much, and you probably will never, ever even get even a small fraction even conveyed to you. You won't even understand what they're probably even saying a lot of times because they're speaking to you with a higher level of content that because you don't have the life experience, you can't make anything relative to you. You don't have any kind of way to compare that information, so you don't really have a good grasp. I remember my grandparents telling me a lot of things, and I never really understood them until I got older. And this is how it is with a lot of times when we're younger. But regardless, though, even though we don't have the experience to say, okay, I can reflect on that and actually understand because I have similar types of experiences, you can at least listen to them and try to take it in. And you'll thank me later on. Just listen to your elders. These people have lived life. I mean, when you go to the nursing home, which you probably should do, and spend some time at a nursing home and just visit people that are elderly, the geriatric populations that are by themselves, that are fighting actual real loneliness, these people have so much to share. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. And it's so sad that they're in these places that they don't have an outlet to share their wisdom. And so this is just an idea, is that for young people to interact with older people as much as possible willingly, and don't go through it like, oh, it's a bore or a task. Do this in the hopes of actually bettering yourself, because you will better yourself over time. Stay tuned for the next part. We're going to talk about the middle-aged prepper. Thanks for watching.